Hey guys, this is Matt Core from ctrl+paint.com. And when you make an illustration like this, especially if you do environment work like I do, it's sometimes kind of a pain to add people or small, very detailed elements that are in lots of paintings. Well, a great technique is to just use what's called a custom shape. So here I've made a custom shape that is a person. Now, clearly he is blue, which is not quite right. The beauty though is that once I have a shape, I can paint in the colors much more easily. So I can actually lock transparent pixels over on the layers palette and then just overwrite those colors with, whatever colors I want. Here I'm just grabbing some from my image. Really, this is just a very quick example. But after I drop a quick shadow below him, you can see how quickly then I have a person for scale in my image. It doesn't really look like a vector image, even though it essentially was. But what it does is it allows me to not spend lots of time on something that doesn't really add a lot of design to my image. All it does is help with a sense of scale. But creating a library of these is really powerful. So let's take a look at how we might do that. Okay, I've stepped ahead a little bit here. What I actually started with were just some photos. I thought, what are things that are a pain to draw, but that are small in my illustrations? And I thought, okay, well, crowds and horses. So here I have the top row here are sort of seen from a high angle, and then everything here in the middle are seen at sort of eye level. And all I've done is just paint over them with the brush tool. So there's nothing vector happening here. These are just, single layers that I've painted characters with the brush tool. What we need to do is to convert these into vector shapes, and then we'll convert the vector shapes into a custom shape library. It's a lot easier than it sounds. Let's take this horse here as an example. So what I'll do is I will control click on the layer thumbnail, which gives me the selection of the layer's boundary. Now I'll make sure I have the marquee tool selected. I will right click, and down here in the middle there's something called make work path. And what this does is it asks, what is the tolerance? And I'm going to set this to the lowest value possible. That's 0.5 pixels. This just means it's going to have a lot of detail. And when I click OK, there you can see it's made a very complicated vector path off of my quick sketch that I did with the brush tool. That was the crucial step. So now that we have it as vector, I can say edit, define custom shape. And here I'll just call this horse top view. Cool. Let's see if it worked. So now I'm going to go to the custom shape tool, and up top here's my shape library. And sure enough, I have a horse. So I can then drag out either freeform or while holding shift to constrain the proportions. And here I've just drawn a new horse. Now, this illustration doesn't necessarily need a horse, but just for the sake of demonstration, I'll put one in. So I go to Custom Shape tool. Here, I've set it to pixels. If you were to do either path or shape, it would bring out that complicated vector with all those points. I don't think that's always necessary. For my purposes, a pixel shape is fine. So I'm going to pick the new horse that I made here, choose a crazy color, and then while holding shift, I'll just drag it out into my scene. So there I've got a horse. So they're about the right size. You can see the camera angle's not quite right, so sometimes you need to skew these a little bit. And then I can lock transparent pixels and then paint in whatever colors I want. So maybe there's a rider here. Maybe a horse blanket we'll do in green. This really is beyond the scope of this video here, but you can see quickly you get a nice enough drawing, a drawing that gives a sense of scale when all you're doing is pulling from that pre-made library. So the challenge at hand is to take any number of things that might be useful in multiple paintings and then just convert them into custom shapes. So you've seen me make one. The really crucial step for your own organization is to have a usable library. So to do that, you want to go to the Preset Manager. Now, this here is the Tools tab, which you might have seen before. You can also go down to Custom Shapes. So here I've got all the defaults plus the few I've made at the end. So what I'm going to do first and foremost is just delete all the ones I don't want. Now I only have the 3 new ones that I've made. Another thing you can do if you like is to select these and then save them out as their own file. This just keeps everything nice and tidy for you. So now when I go to make a new custom shape and I go to the drop down, the only ones here are the ones that are actually useful to me. So here I can just drop in a quick crowd and I don't have to fuss through this long list of essentially useless shapes that Photoshop has built in. Now, I know we've covered a lot of territory in this short video, but hopefully you've seen how powerful the idea of custom shapes can be for digital painting. The question I'll pose to you is, what are you gonna make? I'd love to hear about it in the comments. What kind of interesting custom shapes are gonna be your library? Thanks for coming to the site, guys.